This is a session on what you need to consider when accelerating your cloud strategy and why cloud is a necessary part of your digitalization process. Hi, Christopher.
Good morning, Beata.
This is a session on the basics that you really need to know to accelerate your cloud strategy. Once and for all, Christopher, what's the most important aspects we need to understand about cloud?
Even cloud technology, I think the word itself is not more than 10 years old-ish. But yeah, I think a lot of people will say that it's services delivered through the internet. But I think this point kind of passes by the whole point of the computer technology. We were thinking about large cargo ships, for instance, that roams our oceans. They can have a large private cloud solution, and they're not connected to the internet to still provide cloud services on board. So now there's actually a definition that I like quite well, which is on Wikipedia. Now I'm paraphrasing, but it says something like it's the availability of resources without the active management of users in an automated fashion.
So
That's a heavy paraphrasing.
So it's both about access and automation.
Yes, absolutely. It's the part about not having a actual human person involved when adding the services. It's the automation of these resources, wherever they may be.
Mm-hmm. Cloud has been a hot topic for many years. Why is it such a necessary part of a digitalization process and a transformation agenda?
We are moving towards the times of high technology. The technology is raging on at an impressive speed. And most of that right now is happening in public clouds or with cloud vendors. I think people are trying to take advantage of that. And it's allowing things that weren't necessarily possible before. I know there's a service I know out there that will allow you to synchronize databases globally on an atomic clock, which means that at any given time, those databases will be exactly synchronized. And that's something that is very hard to do when if you have just like a single location, or it's just one of those things that the technology will allow.
I know at TietoEVRY you've identified a number of cloud drivers. Can you just present a few of them and we'll discuss why they are crucial?
Everybody has a different need to go to cloud, or they have different sort of strategies that are trying to achieve. We've found 13 different drivers that relate directly to what different companies might be trying to achieve. In the end, of course, it might be you want faster time to market or you want increased customer satisfaction. But these drivers are what we sort of tie into the technology. One of these is flexibility, for instance. Now, I could take the example of a retail business that is producing new wares every month, and they need to take that to the market quickly, maybe start up an app to have a campaign and need to roll out these different things. And there's a lot of backbone services that's necessary. So for them, it's extremely important to be able to be flexible, to be able to bring that out as fast as they can. And of course, another trend with the retail industry, as an example, we have these huge shopping sprees like Black Friday or holiday season. And you know that at these times, the web traffic or the people trying to buy things online, it will be huge. So the ability to meet this demand, but not have this demand on the whole year, is very important.
And
so for them to have the flexibility, yeah.
And Christopher, in what way does a cloud strategy provide increased flexibility, would you say?
A cloud strategy will allow it because of the overall technology. If you were a regular organization buying still your boxes and your hardware in your IT environment, you would need to scale up quite a bit. You would need to have all this hardware in place, which means that there's a lot of capex costs involved. You need to buy those things and have them there. Just to be able to handle that peak, that means a lot of investments. When you're in cloud computing, all these resources are, as we said earlier, they're on demand, which means that you can scale up and utilize those resources, but then you can scale down again and save your costs. So that's how cloud will enable flexibility.
Another one of those drivers that you've identified is, of course, security. And security has become an increasingly important aspect as so many of us are working remotely due to the pandemic. Can you talk more about how cloud is enabling higher levels of security and more ways to really monitor security issues?
Maybe something that we can all relate to is that now we are in this COVID situation. A lot of us are meeting online, for instance. We're having to do a lot of things more online. And we know we've all heard of these stories of meetings where individuals that weren't invited got involved or got a link and then logged on. And so a lot of this, the security aspect can be mitigated if you apply the right solutions, if you apply the right access management. And these are all solutions that cloud technology will provide. Of course, some of this is available on premises, but it doesn't mean that it's very simple to set up. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of solutions whilst it's readily available in cloud. That's a very important aspect.
To those who have the opposite view that cloud is a way of lowering security because of hosting, what do you say to them? There's still a lot of organizations debating whether cloud does provide high levels of security.
I can understand where it's coming from. There's been an extreme maturity in what a lot of, like, not just myself, but a lot of the experts in the RM market have been considering this maturity of the cloud services. I'll take an example. There was this huge cloud provider back in 2011 that was hit by lightning during a lightning storm, and the whole data center was brought down, and they had to bring up backup, which took months. And so people's businesses were offline for quite a while. Now, they've mitigated that they've learned and grown on this. And today they have some of the best solutions out there. They handle intrusion attempts all the time, every day. Not only do they handle those and deflect them, they have the experience also to handle whoever gets through the first barriers. And they have systems in place which makes their solutions very safe. For instance, if you look at Google, they have all of their data, all of it is encrypted by default. So there's a lot of things that speak for the security. And I think nowadays, if you talk to any cloud architect, they will tell you in many ways these public cloud vendors are safer than your average on-premises solution.
Accessing a cloud strategy is also a way to access global expertise in a way that you couldn't perhaps do on your own as a single company.
There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of different companies working with these cloud vendors. They're not only themselves that are very proficient in their knowledge base, but a lot of companies, well, such as TietoEVRY, work very closely with them to find out what's the best solutions we can utilize. We're interested in finding the best solutions demanding to the case. The competence that's out there are important, and we're seeing that this shift is not a pushed one. It's more of a strategic or natural move because of the potential abilities that these solutions will provide.
Another driver is redundancy, and to avoid downtime, cloud strategy can be a really good solution. Can you elaborate on that one?
So yeah, redundancy. If you're a storage or backup person, this is an interesting topic. But I think everybody can relate to this. A lot of companies started out or are still, very much based in a single location. Maybe they've had a strategy of having their data center in their basements, which is not always, of course, very practical. How do we acquire this disaster recovery availability, having a secondary data center? And that means you need another location. Maybe you need to buy something or rent it. You need actually staff on site. You need to have the networking that connects them. And this can be very expensive for some organizations and maybe very difficult for others. Now, this is the great plus of having these public cloud vendors. They have this available data centers globally, which means, and even in different regions, they will have several data centers. So they can quickly provide, maybe even in a hybrid fashion, if some companies still want to keep their on-premises environment, it's totally possible to have this secondary location with the cloud vendor.
Where would you say that most organizations that you meet are in terms of cloud maturity, and what do they have left to do?
I think a lot of the companies are in different places, and I think you'll find that the industry has a lot of different terms to where people are and how are they doing and what's to do next. And having governance of your cloud environment. It's having to know who is going to run the shots, who does what, who's responsible for what are the processes for things, having control over this, having the right kind of access to the right solutions. So
And
this governance thing is important.
What's most critical here?
It's very important to sort of document how you process everything and have control, because you don't want to spend up all your resources and leave things on and they will just keep running and the bill will be huge. So you want to have control of your cloud economics. You want to be able to limit access to the services to only the people who need to have access, because you can change a lot and you need to have the right access management. Well, just like you would in a regular on-premises data center, you don't give the keys to that to anybody. So the governance is just about having control of your environment. I think a lot of people might think that being in the cloud, everything is fine and your solutions will work, but actually you need to have control, you need to understand what you're doing, and nobody will tell you what to do. And if you're doing something wrong, you need to figure that out somehow, if it's by yourself or with a partner.
So you have your your business goal, your cloud strategy, you have your governance model in place, you have the right competence, things are working. What's the next level of maturity, Christopher?
You want to optimize. You don't want to bring your legacy systems. And that's a challenge, because not all legacy systems, most legacy systems were never made for cloud computing. So you have to figure out a new way to provide that service. And this whole idea of breaking away from your original understandings of that service is really important. A clear example in the real world, I know this online retailer that has moved to cloud, but they haven't done anything to their e-commerce, their website, their online store. So what happens on, holiday season, Black Friday, they can't actually allow all the users in. They issue a ticketing system. So you're waiting online in an online queue to get into the website to buy stuff.
That's ridiculous.
And I think, I think you'll agree with me that that's this. Nobody has the time to wait around for an online queue. But so their stage is to look at their code and cloudify, or just make it cloud native, make it able to scale with the demand of the traffic. And that's the third stage. That's the optimization. You want to be able to actually take full advantage of the cloud technology.
And what's key here? What should be your focus in the optimization part of your cloud journey?
I think this relates to all the stages. You need to have the technology always needs to support the strategy. I think this is very important. So at this point, when you're optimizing something, you need to clearly lay out what you want to optimize. You can do that either by having people brought together and brainstorm it, or you can follow some sort of framework, and there are a lot of those. We ourselves have a framework called the Cloud Readiness Assessment, and in which case we can sort of look at a specific workload, see how we can optimize it, if it's in cloud or if it's on premises, it doesn't matter. And the idea is to look at what we're trying to achieve, what are the ambitions, and then sort of utilize the technology to actually achieve that. And that's important at this stage right here. You need to focus on this. You need to take in the lessons learned, the cloud economics, and then optimize to actually enable your strategies.
Tell us briefly about the cloud players in the Nordics and how they differ and what their strengths are.
In the market, just like any market, a while ago, there were a lot of players. Now I think you'll see that there's just a handful of them left. We're really in the public cloud market. There are maybe 4 or 5 that we can talk about. You have, but in the Nordics, I'd find that Microsoft, Amazon, and Google are the prominent, and they have also had a strategy to put their region, their data centers in Finland, Sweden, and Norway. And they're expanding in different countries. So for them, this has been a strategic sort of plan. Those are our main public cloud vendors. Now, I know you could also say there's Alibaba, who's making big progress in Asia and Central Europe, and IBM is there also in the US and Central Europe. But for us in the Nordics, mostly these players, these are the cloud players. And then there's, of course, a sea of service providers, such as TietoEVRY. We're all working alongside these cloud vendors to advise the customers, to give them plans and help them with blueprints, and also help them with enabling their hybrid scenarios so they can safely have both a private solution and a cloud solution.
Christopher, if we look ahead a few years, how will we address IT infrastructure? Will we still have seminars about cloud technology, or will infrastructure be a non-issue? You're laughing.
I'm laughing. It's because I started off in infrastructure. I was selling boxes, like a lot of us, and it's funny to think that the infrastructure talk is going to disappear, but I think it will. I think that's where we're going. If you look at the young companies nowadays, they don't even start. They don't buy a server. They would never call up a box seller and buy servers to put in their basement. No, they grow their business and start off their business in cloud. And for them, the focus is on code. It's on software. It's on data, and that's what they're working with. Of course, the world is filled with companies who are still working with their legacy systems. There's this transition of bringing these non-cloud systems into cloud, so we can stop working with this infrastructure and work with the data, the content. This has been a goal for infrastructure people all along. We've been trying for ages to try to get this automation in the back end. We've had hyper-convergence. We have all these appliances where all the infrastructure stuff is put away. And that's the future. We're going there. There won't be a lot of talk about infrastructure in the future to come.
And for those who've been watching and want to reach out for more advice, for more help, what kind of support can you and your colleagues offer?
Our colleagues, no matter where we are, we're always willing to help. I think the most important thing is just reach out and start that discussion, because we're always interested in having these discussions to see how we can attack these challenges we all have and see what solutions we can come up with. This is the most important thing to do. Just pick up that phone call or start that Teams session or what have you, just to get the conversation started and look at the opportunities and the possibilities, as there are so many ways to get to where you want, and it all starts with that first interaction.
So good luck on accelerating your cloud journey, and thank you for watching.